wall, the back wall this time. Okay, we are live. Gonna give people a little bit of a chance to get started, to get on before we officially start. But yes, this is Grace Fondren, Casio. We already have 5 people, so we might just go ahead and get rolling.
One of them's probably my sister. No, one was mine at all.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen of Vanderbilt, and welcome to Terrier Talk. This is episode 12, and I am met here today with the lovely ladies, Grace Fondren and Kate Casio of the girls' track team. So, nice to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. So, great success at the Terrier Relays Friday night for the girls. Beating Thibodeau High by 50.5 points. We were talking about this just a minute ago. Pretty funny that half a point for the tie for 6th place. But, oh God, I can't read. Hello, Hambone. Nice. Thank you for commenting. Anyway, beat Thibodeau, the 2nd place team, by 50.5 points, scoring over 150, I think, even on the meet. Great night, and large help for the both of you. So describe that. I obviously know the finishes, but talk about what you guys did, how you helped. It was great.
So I did the first event of the night, and we did the girls' long jump, and me and Amy competed in that, and we both got points for the team. And then we went to the 4x2 relay, and we did well. I think we got 3rd.
Okay.
And then we did 4x1, and we got 1st. And then you did your...
Yes, I ran the 3,200 meter run, which is 2 miles. And Ella Chestnut, who's a freshman, and I ran that. And we worked together the whole entire time, and were able to come out with, well, she got 1st, and then I was able to place 2nd.
And I find that very interesting, just how dominant. I think it sort of goes back to cross country and the success you have at cross country. The distance runners all night for the girls were doing so well. And those 18 points in that 3,200 meter run were huge in separating between us and Thibodeau at that point. Of course, the 3,200 meter was the second to last event. And that separated Thibodeau, not competing at that point, but it turned the marginal victory to a blowout. And that was great. And so you talk about working together. How exactly does that work in a 3,200 meter run?
Well, it's 8 laps, so a lot of it is truly a mental battle.
Mm-hmm.
And so with like the wind and that kind of stuff, you have to know when to draft, when to kick. Ella has a phenomenal kick, so she's always able to kind of use that against people. And then, you just have to work against other teams because you have to know when, your competitors are weak and where they're weak, and use that to...
I think that, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that might be the big difference between how you guys run and how any other team runs. Because I'll watch other teams and you'll have individual runner who's competing 3rd place, 4th place, whatever, and then someone else who's just in the back. And it's cooperative, not competitive between the two. Okay, that's very interesting.
I'd like to work together instead of against each other.
Yeah. And look, winning the gold versus winning the silver, either way, it's 18 points for the team, which, of course, for any non-relay event would be the most you can get. So, yeah, that's very interesting. I would, because I myself, when it comes to cross-country and long-distance track, more of a spectator than I am a competitor. I'm not an athlete when it comes to that. So I don't really know the terminology when it comes to kicking and draft. Well, I know drafting roughly, but kicking, what exactly do you mean by that?
So that's pretty much something that I am terrible at. I don't really have a kick. Grace knows. Anyway, so in the last 800 or 400, you want to kind of pick up the pace. So we run. Our goal is to do a sub 12. So that would be about 130 for all 8 laps. And so, we're consistent. Say we're running 134 every lap. You want to be able to kick and get down the last lap.
It's like another gear.
Exactly.
Right.
It's another gear, kind of switching to the faster speed instead of just your same.
So, you might have seen you two running the same for the first 6 laps, and then Ella, because of that, you talk about better kick, would be able to. Okay.
Exactly.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that. So that's great. Okay. Very successful, and I know 3,200, 1,600, 800 meter, all were very good for the girls. Now, I know also the 4x1 was great for the girls. Katie Hadel was the anchor, and I saw she kind of, I remember seeing this at the very end. She kind of just almost Usain Bolt like passed him
Yeah.
on the run, and that was great. Where were you in the run? I don't.
I'm the second leg, so I ran
Okay.
the first straight. So whenever Emery handed off to me, we were still kind of like in our lanes. Like we didn't really have a
Mhm.
lead or anything yet. So then we were able to hand off. I was able to hand off to Kennedy in first place, and Kennedy kept it all the way to
Okay.
Katie, and Katie just kicked it back in all the way.
So is there any like specific technique in regards to how the 4x1 works?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really in our handoffs, and Coach Coleman's he's really into that.
I've seen Coach
Yes.
Coleman in sprint practice, the working almost more arm work than leg work.
Oh, yeah.
Which is interesting, and because look, and it makes sense again from a spectator's perspective because everyone's going to be fast in 4x1.
Yeah,
You're gonna
exactly.
get your 4 fastest, so it's that half second of a difference, right? Between
Exactly. Like it's
Okay.
not always like for us, especially because like we're not the fastest out there. So for us, it's really in our handoffs. Like we can run our fastest and we still might not win, but we have a lot better handoffs than most
Right.
other teams. So that's where we can catch them.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, look, you talk about maybe not being the fastest, but apparently that technique
Yeah.
works when you win a meet that has 12, 13 teams
Yeah.
there. It's extremely competitive meet. It's probably going to be more competitive even than like the district meet, as an example.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so looking at that, it's going to, that team might not be the fastest, but you'll have a lot of success
Yeah.
moving on. Definite chances to win big meets throughout the future. Both of you will be able to, and that's great. So do we want to go ahead and talk about maybe some of the other meets, other events that maybe we all can collectively talk about as spectators for?
Yeah.
I have a few of the results listed over here, but the girls were great all night.
Yes.
Field, track, didn't matter. Long distance, mid distance, sprints, yes. 4x1, 4x2, 4x8, all had successful, all scored. And even if we didn't take a gold every time, and we took like 6 or 7 golds throughout the night, but even if we didn't do that, we consistently got points at almost every single event. I want to say, I only had the golds listed here, but except for you, Cassidy, and Caroline Lindsay in the 800, 1600, 3200 with Ella and I'm looking for Kelso.
Yep.
You three, of course, getting the gold and the silver, and that's just I'm looking 50. Well, yes,
Yeah.
but I'm saying 18, 18, 36, 54, 54 points. That's just clean slate.
Yeah.
Take the entire long distance run, and that's extremely impressive, of course. And that's the gold and the silver. Those were the only silvers I had mentioned. But the point is, so many scores in every single event. That consistency is what puts you apart from other teams. And I think this girls track team as a whole can go a mile, 2 miles even, can go far into district, of course, regional, and even state.
Yeah, we're definitely a very strong team. We had great success at state last year.
Mhm.
We came out second as a team. So
Yeah,
that's really good.
I mean,
for so many years we were either like strong in sprints and then lacking in throwing or strong in one area,
Right.
But now we really have been able to put everything together, and I really think this is the year that we have sprints, jumps, throwing, and distance. And I think that we can.
and that is, of course, a big thanks to both of you. So thank you for that. Now, the boys aren't as successful. I will. It's partially on me. I throw shot put for the boys, and look, we're working at it. We're doing our best. It's funny. I was going through the results, and it's like, wow, I can only list the gold for the girls because I would run out of time. And I'll go ahead and make the list. I'll announce the list later on. But for the boys, 1 gold, 1 silver. The whole night. And that was, for the sake of consistency, Kenny Franklin at the triple jump and Hayes Thompson at the pole vault, the gold and silver respectively. And great job to them. Kenny also, they both did well in both the relays and the long jump for them respectively. Actually, reverse respectively. Hayes in the relays, Kenny in the long jump. But it's just the boys aren't as complete as the girls are. The boys aren't as solid across the board as the girls are. So it's interesting, that comparison, because you would, well, as I'm thinking about it, you would think that the boys and the girls track teams would be pretty solid from school to school. Like the boys versus the girls, they'd be of similar quality. But that's not really the case. When I look at, like, thinking about Hanville's boys versus Hanville's girls, there's a distinct difference.
Yeah.
Our boys versus our girls, there's a difference. Thibodeau's boys versus Thibodeau's girls, there's a difference. And I find that very interesting. Is there, I guess, going across this gender difference, is there any notable difference besides luck potentially?
Well,
like, is there?
I think a big difference is like a bunch of our girls are like soccer girls or basketball girls. I mean, I just run here. I'm not a multi-sport person, but
Hey, cross country's different. Come on.
Cross country, indoor track, outdoor track. Anyway, our girls are kind of doing volleyball girls coming to track and everything. But I think a lot of the boys, it's just like they found their one sport, and I don't think for a lot of them that was track.
Mhm.
So I think it's just we're lacking on the number of participants on the boys side.
Yeah,
I
we
get it.
definitely have a lot
we're
less boys.
so deep on girls. Like, say someone gets injured, there's
Right.
20 more people to
Yeah.
fill their spots. But for boys, it's
look
just
at,
not the
because
case.
you usually run the 1600 and the 3200, right? Or you
Well, in years past.
in years past. And this year, there's a lot of competition there, and whether it was by injury or whatever it may have been, you were just running the 3200 for this meet specifically. So that's a great example of that. Whereas for the boys, I'm just going to use this as an example for shot puts. William Wade is one of the best male athletes, strongest male athletes in the entire school, even in the entire region. He'll be, of course, congratulations to him, he signed a scholarship to ULL to play football. And he didn't join track until his senior year. If he was here since day one and working at technique since day one for both shot put and discus, he would be much better at it than he is now. Whereas I'm competing with him, and I guess with all due respect to myself, I'm a decent shot put thrower, but I shouldn't be competing with him. I shouldn't be at his level, and we're at similar levels now. And if he was able to work at this technique, if he dedicated more time to it, yeah, I think that's sort of a microcosm for the boys in general. The boys, because a lot of them are football players, basketball players, soccer players. So, in years future, maybe in the future, we can look to maybe dedicate a little bit more to track.
Yeah.
I hope so. So that's definitely. But thank you, both of you, for coming out. Had a very good time, and congratulations, of course, for all of your finishes on your points for the girls relay. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess one last thanks to both Kate Casio and Grace Fondren. Gonna need to move this around a little bit because if I was just in the corner, that would be a little weird. Okay. I don't know why the message got retracted, Hambone. I don't know if that was on your end or my end. If it was on my end, then I apologize. But I'm going to go ahead and run through the results. I didn't think that was not inappropriate, but I don't think it was really necessary to do with them here because it's just sort of a solo thing. So I'm going to go ahead and give some congratulations to our top finishers for both the girls and the boys at the Terrier Relays. Of course, the girls won in decisive fashion, beating Thibodeau by 50.5 points, as I talked about before. Some top finishers, we had Rebecca Lawrence for the high jump, Emery Prentice for the pole vault, Burton Kelso for the 800 and 1600 meter runs. I discussed this a little bit earlier. Cassie Nguyen and Caroline Lindsay, respectively, got second in those runs, probably using some of that technique of that Kate was talking about earlier, of being cooperative with your teammate, because you're going to have two for each event. 2 runners, 2 throwers, 2 jumpers, whatever, for each event. And in running specifically, you can be cooperative. And I think that's great. So run cooperatively, and I think that's what helped Bryn, Cassidy, and Caroline, as well as, of course, Kate and Ella for the 3,200 meters. Outside of that, we won both the 100-meter relay, the 4x1, and the 4x8, with big help from, of course, both the anchor, Katie Hadell, and Grace Fondren, who gave us a little bit more of an insight into the technique for that. And that's great. Thank you, Grace, for that. So that was it for the girls, and, of course, a great night for them. The boys didn't finish so well, as we talked about earlier. We finished 7th out of 12. However, Kenny Franklin on the triple jump and Hayes Thompson winning the silver on the pole vault. Congrats to all of our top finishers for both the boys and the girls. So that was track this week. We also had some similar finishes in the South Terrebonne meet on Monday. Huge week for track, and of course we just spent almost 15 minutes talking about it. So, moving on to baseball. Baseball got 4 huge wins this week versus South Terrebonne, both here and at South Terrebonne, winning 9-5 and 13-5 respectively. Weird scheduling, playing South Terrebonne twice in the span of 3 days, I think on the Tuesday and the Thursday. But successful both times, doesn't really matter. Even got better the next time going to South Terrebonne. So, of course, great wins for the boys. Not that surprised, but still great wins for the boys. We then shut out Houma Christian that Friday night, 6-0. That was the same night as the Terrier relays. So we got a little bit of double action going on there between the baseball team and the track team last Friday. And finally, we beat South Lafourche, traveling to cutoff, beating them 7-1 Saturday for the baseball team. Now, if you go back to last week and talk about the De La Salle game and our win against De La Salle, that is a 5-game win streak for the boys. We haven't had a solid win streak in any sport since the girls basketball team had that great 8-game win streak back in January, February, stretching into district play. And that's what's happened with the boys. It's stretched into district play, and we're getting hot at the exact right time. And that's awesome. And we need to go out there and just keep doing what we're doing. We're playing great defense, especially in the last couple of games, only giving up 1 run on either Friday or Saturday. Playing solid defense. Just keep doing what we're doing. And we have a couple big games this next week. But it's just going to be, keep that formula going, keep our momentum going, and just go out there and win. Continue the win streak. Moving on, we had softball. Only 1 game this week, but what a game to talk about. So if you remember from last week, I talked about how bad South Terrebonne was as a softball team. They were, I think, 1-10 going into this game. And they proved that pretty effectively in this game. They went and lost to our Terriers 18-2. We won that game by 16 runs, and it was ugly. We looked absolutely amazing during the entire game, and it was a very successful win for our softball team, which gives us a little bit of momentum, a really nice bit of momentum going into next week. And this week for the girls is a huge one, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Tennis also had a lot of success with both wins against Ben Franklin and against, I think it was South Terrebonne on Thursday. Correct me if I'm wrong, any tennis players, but I think that's what the deal was. And, of course, I talked about this a little bit last week, but I'll talk about it a little bit more here. There's sort of this triangle of the 3 best teams in our playoff bracket for tennis, and that is Ben Franklin, St. Thomas More, and us. And we beat one of those triangles, the other team. We played St. Thomas More twice. Our boys had 2 valiant fights with St. Thomas More, but 2 losses, and our girls had 2 victories. And both the boys and the girls teams beat Ben Franklin, which means that we're going to be going in to the playoffs potentially as definitely favorites for the girls and as serious contenders for the boys. And the girls are undefeated in tennis right now. This, from what I've heard, is one of the most solid girls tennis teams that you'll have seen in a very long time. It's a very good team. If you ever have a chance, go out there and watch them. And I'll talk about some of those dates that you can in a little bit. And then, of course, golf had more success over the last week as well. We're going to go ahead and go into the next week preview. Golf, the boys travel to Atchafalaya. Good luck to them on Tuesday. And the girls have the closest thing they're going to have all year to a home match on at Allendale, which is I'm pretty sure where they're practice on Thursday. So of course, go out there. That's not going to be too far away. Go out there and support our girls golf team as they have that match at Ellendale. Tennis has one game this week. The gold team travels to Assumption on, I'm pretty sure it's Thursday, it's Wednesday or Thursday. And they have a big proving ground match for the district. Covers a lot of space, big travel time. Go out there and beat a district rival in Assumption would be really important. Of course, the girls trying to keep that undefeated winning streak going. Moving on, we have baseball, track, and softball, of course, the major sport, the big sports for the week. Okay, so baseball. Host South Lafourche, a rematch just from yesterday on Tuesday. A similar story to talking a lot about the review from last week. The South Terrebonne games and the South Lafourche game. It harkens back to both of those in a way. It harkens back to the South Terrebonne game, of course, because South Terrebonne, we just played them twice in the span of 3 days. And we're about to go play South Lafourche twice in the span of, I think, 4 days. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So this weird, I don't know what the deal is with the scheduling, and there's another example of this later on this week that I'll talk about in just a minute. But it's odd. I don't know why this gets scheduled like it is, but it is scheduled this way. That we're playing all of our district foes super close in proximity to each other, the two games. And this is another example of that, playing South Lafourche on Saturday and on Tuesday. And so it's just a similar story. We're going to host them this time. They're a little bit weaker, if I recall correctly, on the at home than they are on the road, so they might be a little bit of a tougher opponent. However, we just beat them by 6 runs. So I think we'll have I don't think we'll have a lot of trouble. I think it should be a very solid win for our baseball team. Then we travel to Ellender on Thursday. And one thing, first of all, it says on the Vanderbilt calendar at the very least that Vanderbilt has Ellender again on both Thursday and on Saturday, which, again, we're going to play another team in baseball, not softball, baseball, just baseball, specifically twice in the span of 3 days, in this case, Thursday and then on Saturday, traveling to Ellender on Thursday, excuse me, and then hosting on Saturday. So about the matchup specifically, I'm not sure if Ellender just doesn't like spring sports, baseball and softball, because they're pretty bad at both. They're 3-12. This should be a pretty simple one for us, and both games should be able to continue that win streak. They're important for momentum purposes, they're important for district purposes, but they shouldn't be very difficult games this week for the baseball team. So hopefully, I'll be talking about the baseball team again next week with an 8-game win streak. That'd be awesome. And I would love to discuss that in potentially bigger games for the baseball team. Then track has a big meet at Central Lafourche on Friday. I guess a little bit of a cool thing about that meet, I will be doing the announcing. I did the announcing for the Terrier relays, of course, on Friday. And I will be doing the same thing in Raceland this Friday at Central Lafourche. So go out there, obviously support our Terriers, support our great girls team, support our boys team, and we'll have a lot of success. We'll be it'll be a fun night. We'll have a lot of different running, of course, track meet going on, and it'll just be a fun time. So big meet, and go out there to Raceland Friday night to see our Terriers in track. And finally, we have softball. Softball has a huge week and a very busy week this week. Beginning on Tuesday, we host Assumption. So these games, unlike the Ellender and the South Lafourche games in the track meet, there's a little bit more to delve into. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into the statistics. Assumption is just below 500, which is something you're going to hear me say a lot in the next couple of minutes. It's a very winnable game for us. However, there's something a little scary looking at their ACO. Against common opponents, we struggle. They have a win against Testrahan, which is a team that blew us out by, I think, 8 runs, I think 11-3 earlier on in the season. And they have a pair, I think, of much closer losses against Ascension Christian, 8-7 compared to our 8-3 loss to that team. So it will be difficult to win. Oh, how's that March Madness bracket going? If you guys want this to happen, and please leave comments in the comment section talking about this, Ben, to answer your question. It's doing okay. I think I went like 22-10 in the first round. I'm not doing that well in the second round. I haven't really looked at it yet. But I'm coming out okay in the first weekend. I think 7 of my 8 Elite 8 teams are still there. Still have all of my Final 4 intact. Only real miss was Nevada. Go watch that video. It was really long, but I detailed all of my thoughts on all of those meets. Yes, Matthew Mans. First of all, thank you both, Matthew and Ben, for commenting. Hope you are enjoying the show. And yes, the track meet was great. It was definitely excellent. I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope I'll enjoy it in Raceland again at Central Lafourche this next Friday. Pujols Clark, we'll see about that, but thank you, of course, for commenting, and I hope you're enjoying the show. I don't know if we're going to be dying in 12 years. I kind of doubt it, but either way, enjoy what we have now. So that's a big game. Assumption on Tuesday. It is a winnable game, although it may be tough. Then, a day after that big game, it's a district game, if I think at the very least. It's a district game. We then travel to Central Lafourche the next day, and it's a very similar story. We travel to Central Lafourche, and they're just below 500, 6-7, if I recall correctly, and they are much better. This is interesting, and this is very good for us. They are much better on the road than they are at home. We're playing them on the road for us, so at home for them. They're 5-2 on the road, 2-3 at home. We're a little bit better on the road than at home ourselves. So, thank you, Matthew. I think I'm fine at the very least. However, the ACO is a little bit stronger for us here. The Central Lafourche team seems to be a blockbuster opponent, not in the way of like it's a lot of star power, but in the way that there will be fireworks going on in this game. What I mean by that is they played St. James, a team that we beat earlier on in the season. We beat them 7-2. They gave up, unless this is a typo, and I don't think it is, 27 runs to St. James in a 7-inning softball game. That is a thing that actually happened in a high school softball game. What? 27 runs. They scored 12 themselves. So their offense is a fireworks show. They score like 10 runs a game. Offense is completely great, and we struggle against great offenses from what I've seen so far. But they gave up 27 runs in a game. I don't know what happened. All I know is the box score. So, Saint, what? So it's a very explosive offense and obviously a very poor defense. So come to Raceland on Wednesday if you want to see a very fun, firework-heavy softball game from our Terriers on Wednesday. After that 2-game spurt, we then play South Lafourche on Thursday, the day after that. And it's, again, a similar story to the Central Lafourche game. Very similar record. I think they're also 6-7. And they also have a better record on the road versus at home. A little bit more, though. They're 5-2 on the road, the same as Central Lafourche. However, they're 1-5 at home, which is abysmal. That's awful. And so, despite the fact that we are going to have to make this long road trip to South Lafourche, we should be able. It might even be in our favor to have to make that long road trip and be successful. South Lafourche does not have a very good history on the road at home. Excuse me. So that is going in our favor. However, one thing that's not going in our favor is the run differential. Despite being below 500, their run differential is a stupendous number of plus 41. I think it's like 126 runs to 85 runs given out throughout the season. We're below. We have a negative run differential, of course, being below 500. When they win by a lot, and they don't lose by a lot. So it should either be a very close win for us, which would be my prediction, considering their history at home, or a blowout loss, and that would look really bad. So, of course, here's hoping that is not the case. We can keep on a cap those very good offenses, both from Central Lafourche and South Lafourche, and hoping we can get 3 victories for our softball team this week. And that's throughout the week, the weekdays. On the weekend, on the Vanderbilt calendar, we have the main event for the week, and that is hosting Terrebonne Saturday. I don't think the time's been announced yet, but whatever it is, it's a big one. It's a big one for local bragging rights. It's basically the war of Homa. The two biggest schools in Homa, Homa Christian, that are just fighting for local bragging rights. We're not in the same districts. We're just going out there and trying to take local bragging rights. It's not really much of another way to put it. Now, unlike the other games, Terrebonne is probably the worst of the 4 teams that we're going to play this week. They're 2-9, which is pretty bad. They're winless at home. However, I'm pretty sure this game is we're hosting. It's on the road for them, home for us. So it could, they actually can get wins on the road. So it's going to be not quite the simple victory that it might have been at Terrebonne. They give up over 10 runs per game. They're not good at all. But, like I said, this game's important not for the matchup of statistics, but it's important for the matchup of the schools. Terrebonne, in a lot of ways, it's not as important as E.D. White games. We don't play E.D. White once this week. But it is a very important. It's sort of like no matter what sport we're playing, Terrebonne, it's important to win because the perception of the 2 schools in the city, in the local area, it hinges in a lot of ways on who wins that game. Beating Terrebonne makes Terrebonne look like a weaker sports school in any sport, basketball, track, soccer, whatever. And in the case of softball, if we can go out there and beat Terrebonne, it looks great. We look like the kings or queens, for softball's sake, the queens of Homa. So let's go out there and take that crown. That will be the final game for the week. I hope you had a good time, and I will see you next week, same time, same channel. See you.